I'm Daniel Thorne, and I'm going to be presenting on click and mortar churches. What is click and mortar? What does click and mortar refer to? Well, to be honest, I wasn't exactly sure, and so I'm hoping that the direction I took this was the correct direction. But in my research, I discovered that click and mortar describe businesses, or in our case, churches, that have both a physical location and a website. A lot of churches may have only had a physical location and not a website, just like businesses may have only had a physical location and not a website, or website but no physical location. One example, Amazon being one of those companies that just operates on the internet, and they were the ones that kind of revolutionized how businesses use the internet in their daily business. And as a result, the effect grows to churches, and so now you're seeing more and more churches turning to the internet to provide help in their ministry that the church does. So why are churches doing this? Well, like I said before, there are benefits, and you don't have to. If you just do a quick Google search of why should churches have a website, you'll get tons of articles that want to give you their top 10 or top 5 reasons for churches to have a website. And we won't go into all of them, but my three favorite that I saw in the research we'll look at here. And the first being that church websites can bring people in. Tony Morgan believed that church websites will bring people to church, whether it's people in their community looking at your website, finding out information from your church, and as a result, attending your church, or somebody moving into your community, looking for a church home, and where are they going to do that search? They're going to do that search on the internet, and they're going to find information, and if they can find the information and they think it's a church they want to try out, they'll come in. So before, where churches that don't have websites are relying on people driving by their church, or they're relying on somebody from the church inviting them to bring people in, the website can be an additional tool to bring people to your church. And off of that, the second benefit that churches are looking for when they have a website is they want to extend the reach of the church. So churches that don't have websites are limited in who they can reach based on where they're located. Maybe they're only able to reach, I've seen some that says a 5-mile radius, where you're only able to reach people within a 5-mile radius. Well, that's true if you just have a physical location, but a website, maybe you're able to extend the reach beyond, and maybe you're able to extend the reach maybe 10 miles to the community. Whereas, because now you can direct them to your website, and then they go, oh yeah, that's a great church, I want to check that out. And they make the extra drive where they didn't necessarily know about you before. It also extends the reach beyond your community and into the world, where you're now able to reach anybody that stumbles upon your website, or if you do advertising for your website. So having a church website can extend your reach far beyond your physical location ever could. Another benefit that churches are recognizing from a website, and is a reason they're leaning to having a website, is that it's able to help people stay connected. Churches are using their websites to keep people connected to the church and to other people. And when churches decide to have a website, there's a feature where you can have a calendar and people can look at the calendar and see upcoming events. And they can see events that they may have forgotten about. Maybe they were gone a Sunday, and they're able to see important announcements that were made while they were gone. So websites help people stay connected to your church. You're able to present announcements that maybe you're not able to present on a Sunday morning, and you're able to direct people to your website to see those announcements. Churches are also using websites to get people connected to other people. And there's all types of message boards that churches are incorporating into their website. Not every church, but some churches are incorporating a feature where members can sign in and then have access to communicate with other members. Maybe this is for an example, they can use this for prayer messages, where someone can post prayer requests, and then people can comment prayers or even comment, I'm praying for you, and just one way that churches can use their website to keep members connected instead of just relying on the physical location, and when they come to our physical location, that's when they're connected. Churches are now utilizing the internet to keep some of their guests and members connected to each other. But some of the benefits don't come without concerns. and Tom Rainer identified in an article 7+1 deadly sins of a church website. And I think if churches are going to go more towards a click and mortar type of strategy for their church, they're going to need to be aware of these concerns and aware of these pitfalls that can occur with their website. And so we'll look at the 7 or +1, the 8. So the first being if the website is both dated in design and content. Now, when churches have websites, we'll first look at content. If the content of the website is dated, then the website is going to be a negative. If the content shows times for your worship services that have since changed, well, your website's not going to do much good. Or if you have pictures that are from 2001 and you don't have anything else, it's not going to. Well, it's going to look like you haven't done any ministry since 2001. And that's not going to be a real appeal. And then the second, if your design is dated, people are going to. For me, the website is that first impression. Before, where as the physical location would be the first impression, more and more the website's the first point of contact people are having with your church. And if your design is dated, and what does that say about your church? And as more and more people are familiar with with internet and websites, they're not only looking for great content, but they're looking at something that they enjoy being on. And so our websites for our churches need to be designed properly and with in mind for people to enjoy using. The second deadly sin for a church website that Tom Rainer gives is that the websites are built cheap and they look cheap. If churches are going to decide to have a click and mortar approach, they need to recognize that websites are going to cost money. It costs in paying a resource or company that manages your website for you, so that you can make sure that your design and content is always updated. But that's going to cost. Or it's going to cost by having to pay a staff member to now take that upon their role. So websites are going to cost, and if we start cutting costs with our website, it's going to look like it. And if we do this, then our website becomes a negative instead of a positive. The third, service times are hard to find or are missing. Our websites need to have service times. If a benefit of the website is bringing people into your church, then they need to be able to find your service times. So not only do they need to be able to find, but they need to be there. They can't be missing. And so people don't need to have to search to find when to come to your church. You want it to be probably on the front page where when they type in your church website, it almost without even looking for it, they find service time, Sunday, 9:30, 10:45. So we want to make their job as easy as possible to come to our church. After all, that is one of the benefits of having a website, bring people in. So we need to make the information easy for them to find on where to come or when to come. And then the fourth being the physical address of the church is missing, which kind of blows my mind that if a benefit of having a website is going to be bringing people in, we would want the physical address of the church to be easy to find. We don't want it to be missing. We don't want people to have to search for it. This isn't a scavenger hunt on our website. This is a tool to help your church do ministry, and so they need to be able to find your physical address. And then the fifth was not enough information on childcare. For me, it's not as important. I don't have kids, but I can understand if your church is going to reach to young adults that have kids, they're going to want to know what are the conditions of the childcare. Is childcare provided? What kind of childcare is provided? How is my child going to be protected? What's the condition of where my child's going to be kept? All these things, yes, they can find out when they come, but your website is trying to reach those that maybe are looking at your website before they come. They're looking at your website, making a decision whether or not they're even going to visit your church. And so putting information on the child care can help eliminate excuses for people not to come to your church. And if people see, oh, okay, this is where my child's going to be, this is how they stay protected, and it's going to provide, it's going to ease the parents' minds that are coming to your church knowing that your child's going to be protected. The sixth negative, or potential negative, is if information on the church staff is limited. A lot of churches don't have very much information on the staff. Maybe just the name of the staff members are on there. But people want to know, okay, who are the leaders of the church, and who are they? There's some churches that give the staff space to write a little bit about who they are. And this is information that, while not necessary or vital for a website, it can go above and beyond. And if your church is going to adopt click and mortar as a strategy for their church, then providing information on the church staff on your website can be a real beneficial thing for your church. The seventh is if there's no place to listen to recent sermons. So one of the benefits we talked about was that websites give churches the opportunity to extend their reach, to extend the reach of the church far beyond what their physical reach may be. And so one of these ways that your website can do this is by creating a place where people can come and listen to recent sermons from your church. It's pretty easy technology that if you don't know how to do it, and someone in your church doesn't know how to do it, there's people that can help in this area. But this provides anybody in the world can find your church website and listen to a recent sermon. And this gives your church the ability to minister to anybody. And maybe it's not, okay, we're just doing this in case somebody stumbles upon our website, but maybe your church did a mission trip somewhere in Europe, and you connected with this group of people. Well, you can give this group of people your church website and say, hey, visit our church website. We post our recent sermons, and you can help minister to them, and they can be encouraged through your church, and they can continue being ministered by your church even after you leave from the mission trip. And the eighth and final deadly sin that Tom Rainer gives us is that there's churches that are using websites, but there's no statement of belief of what the church believes. And I think this is crucial for our churches because it can provide, when people are looking at your website, they can get a good sense of what the church is, who the church is, by what they believe. And I know for me, when I've moved for college, I was looking at websites, and I was looking, okay, what does the church believe? Because I wanted to make sure that my faith and what I believe aligns with what they believe. And if a church didn't have that, it was almost like, why didn't they have that? Like, do they want, or do they not want people to know what they believe? What's the deal? So if you're going to adopt click and mortar as a strategy, we need to make sure that we have statements of faith on our website. This also allows, or it can prevent people coming to your church that maybe have a radically different faith than if they're looking at your website and they can see, okay, yes, we don't believe the same things, they're probably not going to be coming to your church. And I say this just to say that that can prevent a lot of conflict. If someone comes in not knowing that their faiths conflict greatly, they can stir up a lot of trouble, and then people can be misled. But when we list statements of faith on our website, not only are we keeping maybe someone that conflict out, but we're making sure our members understand this is what we believe. And in turn, if you come here, this is what you believe. And so our members can be educated more on what we believe and in turn what they believe. And so, in conclusion, with a website or a click and mortar strategy, churches need to understand that there are great benefits by having a website. There's many, I just listed 3, but there's many articles that listed 10 reasons why your church needs to have a website. And yes, your church can realize all those 10 benefits, but we need to understand what the risks are, or what the maybe pitfalls if we don't do it correctly. And it's almost in a sense, if the church decides to have a website, or if they decide to adopt a click and mortar strategy, they need to make sure they do it the right way. And if they don't do it the right way, it can almost detract from your ministry instead of add. So, things you need to think about. If your church doesn't have a website, is now the time to get one. And this wasn't to persuade you into getting a website, but maybe you need to be thinking, okay, we're not a click and mortar church because we don't have any presence on the internet. Well, maybe you decide now is the time, this is what we need to do moving forward. And then hopefully you can understand what you need to be watching out for. And then if your church does have a website, is it adding or distracting from your church's ministry? Are there some pitfalls that are mentioned here, or is your church following one of those pitfalls? So hopefully this helped you out, and you can understand why churches are adopting a click and mortar strategy and what the benefits and then negatives are. So thanks.